While the Egyptians were building the pyramids, this country was empty of humans. While Julius Caesar was assassinated in Rome, this country was empty of humans. While the Vikings were invading England, this country was still empty of humans. This is the final major landmass discovered by humanity. But why did it take us so long to find a paradise the size of Great Britain? And what happens to a land when nature is left alone for 80 million years? Today we are solving the mystery of the last place on Earth. World Tour with D presents New Zealand. Kia ora, adventurers, and welcome to the channel. This isn't just a bucket list destination, it is a geological masterpiece. It is widely considered one of the most beautiful countries on Earth. It is a land of giants, a real-life fantasy world, and the final frontier of human discovery. Because it sat undisturbed for eons, evolution created something here that exists nowhere else. It's a place where the landscape changes from tropical rainforest to alpine glacier in a single afternoon drive. The wildlife is unique, the culture is deeply rich, and the history is a dramatic story of one of the greatest migrations ever made. Let us provide this ultimate guide. We are breaking down New Zealand's mind-blowing geography, how it was formed. We'll journey through its rich history from the first Polynesian navigators to its trailblazing modern-day moments. We'll hit some rapid-fire fun facts that will make you the star of your next trivia night. And finally, we'll share our ultimate travel bucket list to inspire you to book your flight to New Zealand. Get your notepad ready, grab a beverage, and let's dive into the land of the long white cloud. Part 1. Geography Deep Dive. The engine room of Earth. To truly understand New Zealand, you have to realize that what you see above the water is just the tip of the iceberg. New Zealand isn't just a couple of islands. It is the penthouse suite of a massive submerged continent called Zealandia. About 80 million years ago, this massive slab of continental crust, about half the size of Australia, tore away from the supercontinent of Gondwana. For millions of years, it drifted into the Pacific and for the most part sank. Today, 94% of Zealandia lies beneath the waves. The islands of New Zealand and New Caledonia are the only significant parts of this lost continent still above water. This ancient separation from Gondwana and its subsequent submergence and isolation is the key to its unique biology. But Zealandia didn't just drift into a quiet neighborhood, it parked itself directly on top of one of the most active geological intersections on the planet, the boundary between the Pacific Plate and the Australian Plate. This isn't a polite boundary, it's a geological wrestling match that runs the entire length of the country. The way these two massive tectonic plates interact is what gives the North Island and the South Island such completely different, yet equally spectacular personalities. Let's look at the North Island first. Here, the Pacific Plate is losing the wrestling match and is being forced underneath the Australian Plate in a process called subduction. As that ocean rock dives deep into the Earth's mantle, it melts. That molten rock has to go somewhere, so it punches its way to the surface. This means the North Island is the engine room of New Zealand's heat. It's home to Taupo volcanic zone, one of the most active volcanic areas on Earth. This is where you find bubbling mud pools, steaming cliffs, and explosive history. Lake Taupo, the massive lake in the center of the island, is actually the collapsed crater of a supervolcano that has experienced some of the largest eruptions in human history. It sits smack bang on the Pacific Ring of Fire. This means you get volcanoes like Mount Ruapehu, an active volcano you can ski on, and Mount Taranaki, which looks so much like Mount Fuji it stood in for it in the movie The Last Samurai. Next we have geothermal zones. Head to Rotorua and you'll think you've landed on another planet. We're talking bubbling mud pools, geysers that erupt 100 feet in the air, and natural hot springs that are the most incredible spa day of your life. And finally, big cities. It's also home to Auckland, the largest city, and Wellington, the capital. Even the nation's largest city, Auckland, is built right on top of a basalt volcanic field. It's a city dotted with over 50 dormant volcanic cones that are now beautiful grassy parks. However, the situation changes radically when you cross the Cook Strait to the South Island. Here, the plates aren't just diving, they are smashing into each other horizontally along something called the Alpine Fault. This massive collision is forcing the land straight up into the sky, creating the glorious backbone of the South Island, the Southern Alps. These mountains are rising incredibly fast in geological terms, millimeters every year. But nature demands balance. As fast as the mountains rise, massive systems of glaciers are grinding them down. Over millions of years, these rivers of ice carved out the deep, U-shaped valleys and the breathtaking fjords of the southwest coast, like Milford Sound. Glaciers. You've got the Fox and Franz Josef glaciers, which are incredible. They are rivers of ice that flow all the way down into a temperate rainforest. You can walk right up to them. Fjords. On the southwest coast, you have Fiordland National Park. Glaciers carved out massive, steep valleys that were then flooded by the sea. This is home to the world-famous Milford Sound, which Rudyard Kipling called the eighth wonder of the world. It's breathtaking. Waterfalls fall thousands of feet straight into the sea. So, geography of New Zealand is a tale of two islands. The north is shaped by subterranean fire, and the south is sculpted by tectonic collision and ice. Part 2, the history deep dive, the final frontier. For millions of years, this unique geography was devoid of humanity. Because New Zealand sits at the very edge of the habitable world, it remained undiscovered by humans for almost the entirety of our species' history. While the Roman Empire rose and fell, and while the great civilizations of Asia flourished, these islands belonged only to the birds. Then, in one of the final chapters of human migration, it was found. The first people to arrive were Polynesians from East Polynesia. They were without question one of the world's most accomplished navigators. Sometime around 1300 CE, using extraordinary knowledge of stars, winds, and ocean swells, they crossed thousands of kilometers of open ocean in double-hulled canoes, called waka, to find this land. They called it Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud. They adapted their tropical culture to a new, colder environment, establishing a sophisticated tribal society based on iwi, tribes, hapu, sub-tribes, wānau, family. They built impressive fortified villages, pa, and developed a deep spiritual connection and genealogy tied to the land itself. Aotearoa was again left in isolation until 1642, when Dutch explorer Abel Tasman spotted the coast. A brief, violent encounter with a local Maori tribe in what is now Golden Bay convinced him to leave, and he departed without setting foot on shore, charting it on maps as New Zealand. The world's view of New Zealand remained a mysterious, dangerous line on a map until 1769, when the British explorer Captain James Cook arrived on the Endeavour. Cook's voyages were different. They were missions of scientific exploration and cartography. He and his botanist Joseph Banks meticulously mapped the entire coastline and documented the flora, fauna, and people. This contact was the point of no return, bringing Aotearoa into the sphere of European global interests. The decades that followed were a fraught and unregulated frontier. Whalers, sealers, traders, and missionaries descended on the coasts. This period brought new technology, trade, and ideas, but it also brought disease and, most devastatingly, the musket. The introduction of firearms completely destabilized Maori society, leading to the brutal musket wars of the 1810s to 1830s. Tribes with guns gained a terrifying advantage over those without, leading to a period of intense warfare, mass migration, and depopulation. This internal chaos, combined with increasingly and often unruly European settlement, prompted the British government to intervene. This intervention was formalized on February 6, 1840, with the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi. This document is the foundation of modern New Zealand and its most contentious subject. It was an agent between the British Crown, represented by Lieutenant Governor William Hobson, and over 500 Maori chiefs. The problem was, it was not one document. It was two, a Maori language version and an English language version, and due to hasty translation and profound linguistic and conceptual differences, they did not say the same thing. Article 1 in English states that Maori cede all the rights and powers of sovereignty. Article 1 in Maori states that Maori give up kawatanga, a transliteration of the word governorship, a new and ambiguous term. Article 2 in Maori, which the chiefs focused on, guaranteed them tino rangatiratanga, their full chieftainship, authority, and sovereignty over their lands, villages, and all their treasures. The British believed they were gaining a colony. Maori believed they were gaining a legal governor and a protector, while retaining their own authority. This fundamental misunderstanding was not just a translation error, it was a clash of worldviews on law, governance, and land, which Maori saw as communal and ancestral, not a commodity to be sold. The consequences of this disparity were immediate. The British, acting on the English text, began to govern as if they had full sovereignty. Settlers flooded in, hungry for land. Conflicts ignited almost immediately, escalating into the New Zealand Wars. These were not simple skirmishes. They were a series of devastating conflicts spanning from the 1840s to the 1870s, including the Taranaki Wars and the massive Waikato War of 1863 to 64. The war saw the invasion of the Waikato, the heartland of the Maori King movement, which had been established to unite tribes and halt land sales. The colonial government's victory led to rapatu, or massive-scale land confiscations, punishing tribes, even those who had been neutral, by seizing millions of acres. This, combined with the Native Land Court established in 1865, which was designed to break up communal Maori land into individual titles that could be easily purchased, resulted in Maori losing over 90% of their land by the 20th century. For the next century, the treaty was largely ignored. Maori were marginalized, their population and language in sharp decline. Simultaneously, European New Zealand was building a reputation as a social laboratory for the world. It was here, in 1893, that activist Kate Sheppard led the successful campaign for women's suffrage, making New Zealand the first self-governing country in the world where European women could vote. This was followed by progressive reforms like the old age pension in 1898. This paradox, a progressive egalitarian state for its white population, built on the disposition of its indigenous people, defined New Zealand for much of the 20th century. It wasn't until the Maori cultural renaissance and protest movements of the 1970s that this history was truly confronted. This activism led to the Treaty of Waitangi Act of 1975, which established the Waitangi Tribunal. This tribunal was given the power to investigate historical breaches of the treaty back to 1840, beginning a long, complex, and still ongoing process of acknowledging the past and seeking redress. But the story doesn't end there. Modern New Zealand is defined by its attempt to address these historical wrongs through a dedicated legal process, striving to become a truly bicultural nation. Along the way, this small country became a social laboratory for the world. It became an agricultural powerhouse, and in 1893, New Zealand became the very first self-governing country in the entire world to grant all women the right to vote. It is a history characterized by adaptability, a quest for fairness, and a resilient spirit. Rapid fire fun facts. All right, you've got the geography and the history. Let's hit some Kiwi craziness with rapid fire facts. Fact 1. Sheep. Yes, it's true. At its peak, the ratio was 22 sheep for every 1 person. Today, it's more like 5 to 1. Still, that's a lot of wool. Fact 2. The country was the last major landmass on Earth to be inhabited by humans, with settlement beginning about 800 years ago. Fact 3. The haka. You've seen the All Blacks rugby team perform it. It is a traditional Maori war dance or challenge, and it is powerful. It's a display of pride, strength, and unity. Fact 4. The steepest street, Dunedin, on the South Island, is home to Baldwin Street, the world's steepest residential street. It has a gradient of 35%. People literally race up it. Fact 5. No snakes. There are no native snakes in New Zealand at all. You can hike in the bush without a single worry. Fact 6. Kiwi lingo. You've got to know the lingo. Sweet as means awesome. Togs are your swimsuit. Jandals are flip-flops. And chur means thanks, or hello, or cheers. Fact 7. The Great Pavlova Debate. New Zealand and Australia have a fierce rivalry over who invented the pavlova, a delicious meringue dessert. We won't pick a side, but it was probably New Zealand. Fact 8. Capital city. The capital is Wellington, at the bottom of the North Island. It's the southernmost capital city in the world and notoriously windy. Fact 9. New Zealand has more than 50 volcanoes, with many located around Auckland. Fact 10. No matter where you are in New Zealand, you are never farther than 128 kilometers, 75 miles, from the ocean. Okay, you know the epic history, you understand the explosive geology. Now where do you actually go to see the wonders of New Zealand? Start your journey in the North Island. You'll likely land in Auckland, the city of sails. It's a vibrant, multicultural hub surrounded by 2 harbors. It's the perfect place to enjoy world-class food and shake off the jet lag before the adventure begins. You have to head south to Rotorua. This is the cultural heartland of New Zealand and the center of that intense geothermal activity we talked about. It's an amazing place to experience authentic Maori hospitality and see the earth venting steam right in the middle of town. For the hikers, the Tongariro Alpine Crossing is non-negotiable. It's often called the best day hike on the planet. You walk right over active volcanic terrain that looks like the surface of Mars. It is stark, stunning, and unforgettable. Now, we cross the strait to the South Island. This is where the scenery gets bigger, bolder, and incredibly dramatic. Drive straight into the heart of the Southern Alps to Mount Cook National Park. You don't need to be a mountaineer to enjoy this. The valley walks here take you over swing bridges to glacial lakes beneath the highest peak in the country. The scale of the landscape is humbling. Then you hit Queenstown, the adventure capital of the world, nestled by Lake Wakatipu. Whether you want to jump out of a plane, ski a mountain, or just enjoy a world-famous burger by the water, the energy here is infectious. Finally, the crown jewel, Milford Sound in Fiordland. This is the masterpiece carved by those ancient glaciers. It is a world of sheer granite cliffs plunging into dark waters, wildlife, and cascading waterfalls. It is pure, untouched majesty. For a more in-depth travel itinerary, watch out for our video, New Zealand Travel Guide. Conclusion. New Zealand is more than just a pretty backdrop for movies. It is a geological science experiment that is still active. It is a complex, vibrant human story of navigation and coexistence. It is a place that feels familiar and utterly alien all at once. It's far away from almost everywhere, and that is exactly why it remains so special. The effort to get here is the first part of the reward. So pack your hiking boots, Bring your sense of wonder and prepare to have your mind blown by New Zealand. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please like our video and subscribe for more guides to the world's most amazing places. Kia ora, and see you on the next adventure.